The Legend of Jigong, Chapter 66.
We open with a scene that is already in progress, right?
Yeah, we drop right into the action.
Ma Jing is staring at Jigong's tattered monk hat resting on the floor. And underneath this hat is a captive fox.
But not just any fox.
No, it's specifically described as being the size of a dog. Now, the context here is that prior to this moment, a man named Li Ping had come to Ma Jing and basically accused Ma Jing's wife of acting highly inappropriately.
Right, he started a massive, shameful scandal in the household.
Yeah, but Jigong lifts the hat to reveal this giant fox and explains that this creature is an enemy demon. It had perfectly assumed the wife's form to destroy the family from the inside out.
Well, the real wife is entirely innocent and safely away visiting her parents.
Exactly. And I really want to look at the sheer scale of the fox here.
Yeah.
Dog size. I mean, to me, that specific detail feels so intentional.
How so?
Well, it's not a mythical towering beast, right? And it's not a standard small wild fox. It's the exact size of a domesticated guard animal.
Oh, that's an interesting point.
Yeah, it represents a wild, destructive threat that has been comfortably domesticated and just invited into the most intimate spaces of the home.
That's spot on. The physical dimensions of the fox certainly ground the supernatural in the mundane, which, is a hallmark of this literature.
Right, they love mixing the magical with the everyday.
Exactly. The fox spirit is a classic trope in Chinese mythology. It often represents unregulated desire, deception, and the breaching of domestic boundaries.
But the horror for Ma Jing isn't just the supernatural element, is it?
No, not at all. The real horror is the realization of his own perceptual failure. He and his friend Li Ping operated entirely on the evidence of their own eyes.
They built this whole narrative of shame and betrayal based on a visual lie.
Exactly. So Jigong doesn't just capture the demon, he captures the conceptual error of the entire household. And how he forces Ma Jing to handle the aftermath is truly the critical part of the scene.
Okay, let's unpack this aftermath because it is psychologically brilliant. If I put this in a modern framework, it's akin to a devastating case of digital identity theft.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. Imagine someone perfectly clones your digital footprint, your emails, your social media, your voice via AI, and they use it to commit horrific crimes and just obliterate your real-world reputation.
The damage is immediate and profound.
Exactly. Even if a cybersecurity expert eventually uncovers the hacker, the psychological trauma and the social damage are already done. Your community has already judged you.
And in the text, the fox demon has stolen the wife's literal physical identity to ruin the family's reputation in the physical world.
Yes. And Jigong, acting as the ultimate crisis manager, he demands a very specific multi-step protocol. He doesn't just vaporize the fox. First, he commands Ma Jing...
Right, he has to go find Li Ping at the wine shop.
Yeah, and drag him back to see the demon with his own eyes. Why is that step so crucial?
Well, what's fascinating here is that it addresses the social economy of reputation. In this society, honor and shame are very public commodities.
Well, private exoneration wouldn't do any good.
Exactly. It's useless against a public accusation. By forcing Ma Jing to retrieve the very man who planted the seed of doubt, Jigong is orchestrating a forced retraction.
He understands that you can't repair a damaged reputation in isolation.
Right. The false perception must be cured in the exact same social sphere where it was poisoned. Li Ping has to witness the physical manifestation of his own false judgment.
And once Li Ping is standing there, just absorbing this reality check, Jigong issues the final command to Ma Jing. He says, draw your sword and stab the fox yourself.
Which is a heavy demand.
It really is. I mean, I look at Jigong's abilities throughout this text. He wields phenomenal cosmic power. He could turn the fox to ash with a blink.
Easily.
So why? Why force the traumatized husband to physically execute the demon? It feels like a very deliberate, almost brutal form of somatic therapy.
That's a really good way to phrase it. Ma Jing has been a passive victim in his own home. He was manipulated by a demon, manipulated by his friend's gossip.
Right, he was just letting things happen to him.
Stabbing the fox forces him to reclaim his agency through physical violence. The necessity of human agency in the face of divine intervention is a recurring philosophical anchor here.
Because if Jigong just snaps his fingers, Ma Jing learns nothing.
Exactly. He would remain a helpless spectator in the narrative of his own life. The karma of the household remains unbalanced because the master of the house took no action to defend it.
So by demanding that Ma Jing draw his blade and strike the physical blow, Jigong ensures that the human participates in the cleansing of his own space.
Yes, And it is only after Ma Jing commits to the physical act of striking the fox that Jigong utilizes his magic. He simply points a finger, and the fox's head cleanly falls off.
Wow. The divine completes what the human initiates, which leads directly into the disposal of the evidence.
Right. They gather the body of the fox, along with the corpse of another man mentioned in the scene, Gao King, and they burn them.
They find firewood and just reduce the entire nightmare to ash. Fire is universally understood as the ultimate purifier, of course, but in this specific context, it feels like a hard reset of reality.
It really does. It is the destruction of the physical proof of the illusion, ensuring that the false narrative can never be resurrected.
Fire transforms the corrupted physical forms back into neutral elements. It sterilizes the home. But, and this is wild, the smoke has barely cleared from this purification ritual before the narrative radically shifts gears.
Oh, it's a huge pivot.
Proving that while one illusion has been burned away, a much deeper, entirely human deception is still standing right there. The pivot is incredibly jarring, and I just love how the text handles it. There's no downtime.
Not at all.
Jigong turns from the ashes of the supernatural demon and immediately addresses earthly justice. He looks at Ma Jing and demands the capture of a human criminal, Yunlong.
And this is where Ma Jing's character gets really complicated.
Yeah, this is where I really have to push back on Ma Jing, because up until this exact second, he has been playing the role of the aggrieved, honorable family man who is victimized by dark forces.
He literally just bowed to Jigong, acknowledging his absolute moral and spiritual authority.
Right. But the moment Jigong mentions Yunlong, Ma Jing drops to his knees and begs for the criminal's life. He calls him a friend. He asks for mercy.
It's quite the turnaround.
And when Jigong refuses, citing Hua's heinous crimes, Ma Jing strikes this crazy compromise. He says he will release Hua outside the house so Jigong can catch him in the streets.
To protect himself from being legally implicated for harboring a fugitive.
Exactly. Ma Jing is playing a massive, hypocritical game of both sides here.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, your frustration with Ma Jing highlights the central conflict of dual ethical systems operating in the text.
Dual systems.
Yeah. You are looking at him through the lens of a unified moral code, but Ma Jing is a man trapped between two completely incompatible worlds.
Okay, break that down for me.
On one side, you have imperial law and cosmic justice, represented in this moment by Jigong. On the other side, you have the code of the Jianggu, the martial underworld.
Ah, the underworld code.
Right. The Jianghu operates on principles of sworn brotherhood, unbreakable loyalty, and the sacred, almost religious duty of hospitality. If you take a man into your home, his crimes against the state are irrelevant.
Because protecting him is a measure of your own personal honor, so it's not just that he's harboring a friend.
No. Surrendering a guest inside his own walls would completely destroy his reputation in the underworld, just as the fox demon threatened his reputation in polite society.
Wow, okay, that makes sense. And the architecture of the house perfectly mirrors this psychological and social divide, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Ma Jing walks over to the east room and opens a double wall, a secret double wall.
Which isn't just a closet. It is a structural deception built into the very foundation of the home. Outwardly, the plaster presents the illusion of a normal, law-abiding household.
But inwardly, the negative space harbors violent criminals, Yunlong, along with Lei Ming and Chen Liang. The double wall is the literal manifestation of Ma Jing's divided loyalties.
That is such a great detail. So by sending Yunlong out the door, Ma Jing is attempting this desperate technical loophole.
Exactly. He maintains his Jianggu honor by not handing the guest directly over to the arresting authority inside the home.
But he satisfies the mandate of imperial law by ejecting the criminal into the path of the cosmic enforcer. He washes his hands of the outcome.
It's a technicality that plunges Yunlong from total security into absolute terror.
Oh, the psychological whiplash is staggering. If you put yourself in Hua's shoes for a second, you are a notorious criminal, a VIP of the underworld.
You are hiding inside a custom-built, perfectly concealed architectural fortress.
You are as safe as a man can possibly be, and suddenly the plaster slides back and your trusted host says, "The magical monk who sees everything is here. Run."
Yunlong doesn't negotiate. He doesn't pack a bag. The text says he flees south in a blind panic.
The transition from apex predator of the underworld to terrified prey is instantaneous.
Which is critical for setting up the mechanics of the next sequence. Panic annihilates strategic thinking.
Right, he's not making good choices anymore.
Exactly. Yunlong is no longer operating as a calculated criminal mastermind. He is driven purely by the adrenaline of a hunted animal, terrified of an omnipotent pursuer. This lack of rational thought is what leads him directly into the machinery of fate.
Okay, let's follow that machinery because it gets wild.
Yeah.
Hua runs about 3 lines south, which is roughly a mile, and he arrives at a location explicitly named Crouching Tiger Bridge.
Keep that name in mind. It's important.
Yeah. So he approaches the bridge, looks down, and spots a monk hiding underneath it, occasionally poking his head out to scan the area. Given Ha's absolute state of paranoia, his mind instantly jumps to the worst-case scenario.
He assumes this is Jigong waiting in ambush to execute him.
Right. And Hua makes a cold, desperate calculation. He decides to strike first. He mutters the proverb, "Open spears are easy to dodge, hidden arrows are hard to guard against," which is basically his justification for a preemptive lethal strike.
He's rationalizing murder.
Completely. So he pulls out a concealed dart, waits for the monk to poke his head out again, and throws it with devastating precision right into the monk's throat.
And he doesn't stop there.
No. He rushes in, draws his blade, and completely decapitates the monk, sending the head rolling into the water. The brutality and speed of the violence are just shocking.
But it's why Yunlong's immediate reaction that really seals the thematic weight of the scene.
His reaction is pure, unfiltered arrogance. He wipes his blade, sheaths it, and bursts into maniacal laughter. He starts gloating out loud.
What does he say?
He says, "I thought this Jigong had 3 heads and 6 arms, but he's just a mortal fool."
Yeah.
He legitimately believes he has just assassinated a living god. He starts planning to go to Lin to commit even more crimes, riding the high of this ultimate victory.
The hubris is unbelievable.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. I equate this to a very specific kind of video game arrogance. Imagine you've been dreading a legendary final boss. You walk into the arena, you blindly fire your most powerful weapon, and a figure drops dead.
You think you've won.
Right. You throw your hands up, you're cheering, you feel invincible. And then, as the smoke clears, you realize you just wasted your ultimate attack on a random low-level NPC, and the actual final boss is standing right behind you, completely untouched.
That is exactly what happens.
Because right in the middle of Hua's victory speech, he hears a voice behind his back say, "Good Hua Yunlong, let's see where you can run to now." He turns around, and Jigong is standing right there.
The irony is suffocating. And to understand the sheer scale of the cosmic joke played on Hua Yunlong, we have to look at the identity of the victim.
Right, because it wasn't Jigong under the bridge.
No. The monk under the bridge was a man named Zulon, a thief from the Pilu Temple. Zulon was hiding under the bridge because he, too, was a criminal on the run, terrified that someone was chasing him.
2 criminals running blind, basically.
Exactly. But the text adds a layer of fatalistic poetry to this. Zulon's underworld nickname was Little White Tiger. And where does he die?
At Crouching Tiger Bridge. I mean, the specificity of that is chilling. Crouching Tiger Bridge and Little White Tiger.
It invokes a profound concept in classical Chinese literature known as the geographical taboo.
Oh, what is that?
It is the fatalistic idea that a person's name or title can tragically, magnetically align with the nomenclature of a physical location, sealing their doom.
Really? Is there a famous example of that?
Yes, the most famous literary precedent for this is in Romance of the Three Kingdoms, where the brilliant strategist Pang Tong, who goes by the title Fledgling Phoenix, is ambushed and killed at a location named the Valley of the Fallen Phoenix.
Wow. So by employing this trope here, the text elevates the murder from a simple case of mistaken identity to an execution orchestrated by the cosmos.
Precisely. Karma in this universe is not a random lightning bolt from the sky. It is a highly complex, interlocking clockwork mechanism that weaponizes the paranoia of guilty men against each other.
And that clockwork mechanism completely shatters Hua Yunlong. The text describes his soul taking flight from terror, and it makes perfect sense.
He realizes he's nothing.
Right, he goes from the absolute zenith of his ego, believing he has conquered the supernatural and beaten the law, to realizing he is nothing but a pawn in a universe that is actively mocking him. His agency is a total illusion.
The universe just used him to execute another criminal.
And now the real threat is standing right over his shoulder. The psychological devastation is so complete that he reverts to pure flight response. He runs again, and Jigong pursues him through the night.
Which brings us to the dawn, and a radical shift in the environment. We move from the isolated, fatalistic geometry of the bridge into the densely packed, chaotic reality of the city streets.
Yeah, Jigong chases Hua all night, but loses him as the sun comes up. And wandering the streets, Jigong encounters a massive, impenetrable crowd of citizens clustered together, staring at something.
And here we get a masterclass in the petty, transactional nature of society.
Totally. Jigong wants to see what the crowd is looking at. He tries to squeeze through, using the polite phrase, borrow light, which is the standard way to say, excuse me, let me pass.
A very normal request.
Right. But the response he gets from a man on the edge of the crowd is absurdly capitalist. The man refuses to move and demands, how much interest are you going to pay me for borrowing my light?
He is literally trying to extract a financial toll from a monk, just for the right to look past his shoulder. It establishes the baseline morality of the crowd before we even see what they're looking at. Their primary instinct is extraction and greed.
Now, consider Jigong's methods here.
Yeah.
Jigong has magical powers, so why does he use such a silly, mundane trick to get past this guy? Because he doesn't summon a gale force wind or strike him with lightning.
No, he does something much more subtle.
He just leans forward and blows a tiny puff of air onto the back of the man's neck. The man feels the sudden chill, assumes a mosquito has landed on him, and instinctively turns around to smack his own neck.
And in that 1 second of physical distraction, Jigong slips right past him.
He repeats this subtle trick all the way to the center of the crowd. I view this as a deliberate rejection of grand magic in favor of something much more insulting.
Insulting, but profoundly insightful. Jigong is demonstrating a total mastery over human neurology and reflex. He understands that while humans like to believe they are governed by high ideals or complex laws, they are actually slaves to minor annoyances and immediate physical sensations.
That is so true.
He doesn't need to expend celestial energy to part a sea of people. He just hacks their attention span by exploiting their irritation. It proves his intimate, almost gritty connection to the reality of the human condition. He operates on the level of mosquito because he knows that is exactly where the human attention span resides.
He hacks their hardware, and when he breaches the center of the circle, the visual he uncovers is deeply disturbing.
Extremely.
Inside this ring of greedy, toll-demanding spectators is a young man, completely and entirely naked. And the text points out a very specific physical detail. He has a cow heart top knot.
Now, to modern ears, that just sounds like a strange hairstyle, but I have to imagine it carries specific cultural weight regarding his status.
It absolutely does. The top knot indicates he is an adult, likely a scholar or someone of decent social standing, not a laborer or a vagrant. He is a man who possessed dignity and societal worth, who has been violently stripped of all context, clothing, and protection.
He has been reduced to a base, animalistic state.
And that reduction is highlighted by his total inability to communicate. He is sweating profusely, clearly in medical distress, and the only word he can produce over and over again is thirst. Thirst.
And the apathy of the crowd surrounding him is staggering.
You have dozens of people, fully clothed, presumably with means, just staring at a dying man. They are treating his suffering as morning street entertainment. They interrogate him. Where are you from? What happened to you? While he is actively dying of dehydration.
It is the ultimate manifestation of the bystander effect, amplified by an era devoid of social safety nets. The crowd's curiosity vastly outweighs their compassion. They want the narrative of his tragedy, but they refuse to intervene in it.
Jigong injects his trademark dark humor into the bleakness, joking to the crowd that the man must be from Haegu County, which sounds like river dry, and that his name must be Haegu because that's the only concept he seems to grasp.
But the humor is just a deflection before action.
Right. Jigong immediately steps up to a nearby shopkeeper and asks to borrow a simple bowl of water for the dying man. And the shopkeeper's response hits like a brick wall because it feels so unbelievably modern.
The shopkeeper refuses.
And it's not because he lacks water. He says if we give him water and he drinks it and dies anyway, we can't bear the responsibility.
This raises an important question about legal and societal paranoia. We often assume that the fear of litigation, the liability problem, is a modern invention, a byproduct of contemporary legal systems.
But it's right here in a classical text.
Exactly. We see the exact same paralysis. The shopkeeper's human compassion has been entirely overwritten by his fear of the magistrate. He calculates that the legal risk of being proximate to a death or being accused of poisoning a dying man through a failed rescue attempt is just too high.
The rigid, punitive structures of societal law have effectively trained the citizens to be cowards.
They choose the certainty of a man dying of thirst over the hypothetical risk of a lawsuit.
So, denied by the paralyzed shopkeeper, Jigong pivots to a nearby vegetable garden. There is a man there operating a windlass, drawing water from a well. Jigong asks to borrow the bucket.
And the man demands to know why.
Jigong, utilizing his mastery of reverse psychology, casually states, "To jump into the well." The gardener's response is an escalation of the crowd's cruelty. He refuses to hand over the bucket and actively dares Jigong to commit suicide.
He says, "Go ahead and jump. I'm not afraid of a murder lawsuit. I just bet you don't have the guts."
Notice the contrast there. The shopkeeper was terrified of the law. The gardener weaponizes his lack of fear regarding the law to encourage violence. Both are profound failures of humanity. The society presented here is spiritually bankrupt.
Which makes Jigong's next move the most visually surreal and symbolically heavy moment in the chapter.
Jigong accepts the dare and jumps into the well. The gardener panics, runs to the edge, looks down, expecting a corpse, and sees an impossible physical feat.
What does he see?
Jigong hasn't fallen. He has caught the inner rim of the well with his feet and is hanging completely upside down, suspended over the water. The text specifically describes his posture as a reversed candle.
The visual of the reversed candle is vital. A candle brings light, but it burns upward. By hanging reversed, Jigong is visually inverting the accepted norms of the world above him.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The society above ground is upright, lawful, clean, and utterly heartless. Jigong enters the dark subterranean space, inverts his body, and uses his own accumulated filth to perform a miracle.
Yes. Let's focus intensely on that hat for a second, because the text goes out of its way to describe just how disgusting this piece of clothing is. While hanging inverted, Jigong removes his own tattered, incredibly filthy monk hat and uses it to scoop up the well water.
It is caked in years of old oil, grease, sweat, and dirt. It is the antithesis of sterile or clean.
But because of that exact accumulation of grease, the hat has become perfectly waterproof. It acts as an absolute sealant. It doesn't leak a single drop of the life-saving water.
That is the core metaphorical payload of the scene. The clean, respectable shopkeeper, with his pristine bowls, offered absolutely nothing but the guarantee of death. Jigong's unorthodoxy, his rejection of societal standards of cleanliness and propriety, is exactly what makes him capable of holding the water.
I love how I compare the upside-down hat trick to a surreal circus act or like a magical Mr. Bean routine, but you point out the dark social commentary surrounding it. His filth is the vessel of salvation.
He takes the water, performs an acrobatic, single-shaking sparrowhawk flip to land back on his feet, walks over to the naked man, feeds him from the greasy hat, and then strips off his own ragged monk robe to cover the man's nakedness.
It's a breathtaking moment of grace. He restores the man's hydration and his dignity in one fluid motion. But because this text is fundamentally cynical about human nature, this moment of grace is immediately punished.
How?
Well, the naked man drinks the water, his fever breaks, evidenced by a sudden cold sweat, and his cognitive functions return. And the very first sentence out of this man's mouth as he regains his senses is a scream. He yells, "Good monk, you have caused me bitter suffering," and he violently curses Jigong.
Which triggers an immediate, terrifying shift in the dynamics of the crowd.
It's instantaneous. The crowd, which just spent the last hour doing absolutely nothing to help this dying man, suddenly finds its moral voice. They swarm the victim. They start berating him, yelling, "You are so unreasonable. This monk just got you water, gave you his clothes, saved your life, and you repay virtue with resentment. You have no manners."
They form a self-righteous mob in the blink of an eye.
So what does this all mean? Why does the text include this specific misunderstanding with the crowd?
Well, the psychology of the mob here is incredibly dark. Their outrage has nothing to do with defending Jigong. Their outrage is a defense mechanism for their own earlier cowardice.
Oh, I see.
By violently condemning the victim for a perceived moral failing in gratitude, the crowd retroactively justifies their own decision not to help him. They can tell themselves, "See, he's a bad person. We were right not to give him water."
They are eager to judge based on a momentary, surface-level interaction because it elevates them to the position of moral arbiters, masking their utter failure as human beings moments prior.
Exactly. It echoes Li Ping judging Ma Jing's wife based on a surface-level illusion at the very beginning of the chapter. Everyone in this story is aggressively jumping to conclusions based on incomplete data.
So the illusion of perception strikes again. You have to reflect on how often we might act like the crowd, jumping to conclusions about someone's gratitude or character without knowing the trauma they've just endured.
Right. And speaking of trauma, the man in the robe, whose name is revealed to be Zhang Wenkui, quickly diffuses the mob by explaining the massive misunderstanding.
What's his story?
He is a scholar who traveled to Linen to borrow a substantial sum, 200 taels of silver, from his uncle to survive a series of bad harvests. On his journey home, he suffered a severe abdominal attack in the woods. While incapacitated, he was approached by a monk.
But Zhang describes a very specific, different monk, right?
Yes, a purple-faced, spotted, bald monk. This purple-faced monk offered Zhang a black pill, claiming it was medicine for the pain. But the pill was a paralytic. It completely immobilized Zhang.
The evil monk then systematically robbed him of his 200 taels of silver and literally stripped the clothing from his paralyzed body, leaving him to wander into the city in a traumatized fugue state.
So when Zhang woke up and saw a monk standing over him, his traumatized brain instantly flashed back to the assault. He was cursing the purple-faced monk, not Jigong.
But I want to pause and look at the deliberate contrast the author is making between these two monks. They are both unorthodox figures operating outside the bounds of normal society.
The contrast is a brilliant subversion of symbols. The purple-faced monk uses a pill, a refined, manufactured item universally recognized as medicine, to inflict paralysis and commit theft. He uses the symbol of healing to harm.
While Jigong, conversely, uses dirty well water scooped in a grease-caked hat items universally associated with contamination to heal and restore life.
The text is screaming at the reader, do not trust the label, do not trust the uniform, do not trust the initial appearance.
The symbols are entirely inverted, so with the misunderstanding cleared and the crowd momentarily silenced, Zhang Wenkui is standing there, shivering in Jigong's oversized, tattered robe. Jigong takes command and tells the scholar to follow him. They leave the crowd behind and walk down the street, stepping directly into a tavern.
And this initiates a completely different genre of social disruption.
We transition from the paralysis of liability law to the aggressive mechanics of economic class and debt. The tavern scene is structurally hilarious, but conceptually dense. They walk through the doors. The waiter takes one look at them. Consider the visual. Jigong is barebacked because he gave his robe away, wearing only tattered pants and straw sandals. Zhang is traumatized, swimming in a filthy, torn robe.
The waiter instantly categorizes them as vagrants. He tries to shoo them out the door, aggressively stating, "Hey, we don't have any leftovers for you."
The waiter acts as the gatekeeper of the social and economic hierarchy. He evaluates their worth purely on their textiles.
But Jigong completely rejects the categorization. He doesn't plead. He goes on the offensive. He tells the waiter, "Who wants your leftovers? Treat us like the god of wealth has arrived."
He marches past the bewildered waiter, takes a seat in the back room, and begins to order an absolute banquet. He demands the kitchen fry, saute, and roast a massive spread. He orders 16 distinct, elaborate dishes. And to top it off, he orders 2 pots of premium ginseng dew wine.
We really need to contextualize the economics here to understand the stakes. Zhang Wenkui just lost 200 taels of silver. In the historical context of the song or subsequent dynasties where these stories evolved, 200 taels is a staggering fortune.
Right, it's a huge amount of money.
It is enough to buy land, build a house, or sustain a family through years of famine. Losing it is a life-destroying catastrophe for a scholar. On the other end of the spectrum, the waiter specifically notes the price of the ginseng wine, 1 string and 200 cash per pot, though he mentions it's a bargain at half price.
Even at half price, this is an extravagant luxury expenditure for a meal far beyond the means of the peasants outside, but minuscule compared to the macroeconomic ruin Zhang just experienced.
Yet the waiter, despite his initial hostility and visual assessment, actually complies and starts bringing the food.
Why? Why would he serve them?
Because, as the text notes, the systemic rule of the tavern in this era is that you consume first and pay later. The social contract assumes that anyone bold enough to order the food must have the capital to back it up.
So the table is quickly covered in this jaw-dropping 16-dish feast. But Zhang Wenkui, the scholar, is paralyzed. He sits there, staring at the food, shaking with anxiety, refusing to eat a single bite. Jigong asks us what the problem is, and Zhang essentially says, "I can't eat because when we finish, we have 0 money to pay the bill."
Zhang is entirely bound by the physics of society. He understands the unbreakable chain of cause and effect in a capitalist structure. Consumption without capital equals violent punishment.
His mind is trapped in the anxiety of the impending debt.
He cannot enjoy the sustenance because he is already suffering the future consequence.
And Jigong's response to this anxiety is an absolute masterclass in unhinged sociopathic logic. I want to highlight Jigong's insane logic to comfort Zhang because it is both hilarious and deeply subversive.
Let's hear it.
Jigong tells the terrified scholar, "Don't worry about the money, just eat the food. When the bill comes, we obviously can't pay it, so the staff will beat us. If they give us a light beating, it won't really hurt, so we get a free meal for minor discomfort. But if they get angry and give us a heavy, injurious beating, then under the law, they will have caused grievous bodily harm. They will then be legally obligated to pay for our medical recovery and living expenses, which completely solves our financial crisis."
It's the weaponization of the liability laws we just saw at the well. It is the economics of a beating.
I look at this and I see the exact logic of modern aggressive insurance fraud. It's the equivalent of deliberately throwing yourself onto the hood of a slow-moving luxury car to sue the wealthy driver for whiplash. Jigong is literally planning to monetize a physical assault to clear a hospitality debt.
Taking that a step further, Jigong's selling a beating philosophy reveals his ultimate superpower: absolute detachment. He weaponizes his own lack of material attachment against the economic system of the tavern.
Zhang is paralyzed by the loss of his silver and the fear of debt.
But Jigong possesses nothing, desires nothing, and crucially fears no physical pain, because his magical nature renders human beatings irrelevant to him. By gaming the system, trading physical trauma for premium ginseng wine, he exposes the extreme fragility of a society built entirely on the threat of punishment.
If you remove the fear of the punishment, the entire economic structure collapses.
Exactly. The visual contrast at the table is incredible. You have the terrified scholar Zhang shaking, his stomach empty, staring at 16 exquisite dishes, but unable to swallow a bite because he is crushed by the invisible weight of economic theory.
And right across from him, you have this filthy, half-naked monk joyfully chugging premium ginseng wine, completely at peace with the universe, actively looking forward to getting beaten up for dessert.
And hovering on the periphery, you have the waiter, slowly doing the math, realizing he's being set up in a massive dine and dash scheme. The tension in the room is drawn incredibly tight. The reader is just waiting for the inevitable explosion when the plates are cleared and the bill is presented.
But the text refuses to give us that release. Just as this hilarious, anxiety-inducing tension peaks, the author hits us with a violent cliffhanger. Before the meal is even finished, before the waiter can demand a single copper coin, the doors of the tavern burst open.
Oh, here we go.
Two mysterious figures charge into the dining room. They scan the room, lock eyes on Jigong, shout, "Good monk, here you are," and rush directly at him. And that is exactly where the chapter aggressively cuts off.